After the release of Mega Man 10, the entire Mega Man franchise went silent. No X Series, no Battle Network, no Zero, no nothing. So it came as a bit of a shock when Capcom decided to bring our favourite blue guy back in his classic form for the first time in almost a decade. But the question remained if this would be a successful comeback. After all, 10 didn't do too much to innovate on the classic series. And at this point in the gaming landscape, the classic series formula has become beyond antiquated, at least for modern gamers. Well, I'm happy to report that Mega Man 11 is not only a shiny new classic series game in terms of visuals, but also in terms of gameplay. 11 might just be the best classic series game so far. If not, at the very least, in conversation for a top 5 spot, but I'm going to cut the exposition and show you guys what makes this game so great.
Let's start off with the plot. Yes, we're actually talking about classic series plots again, because this one's kind of important. The game opens with a scene of a young Dr. Wily and a young Dr. Light debating whether or not to fund research into Wily's new double gear system. A system designed to push robots to be faster and stronger than ever before. The committee Wily's presenting this to deemed the research to be too dangerous, as it could not only harm robots, but could also be dangerous if it falls into the wrong hands. Shelving the idea, everyone instead decides to go with Light's plans to research robots and independent thought, which angers Wily.
This whole exchange is very interesting for two reasons. First off, it's us seeing the origin of the beef. The reason Wily went rogue, the catalyst for all 11 games we've covered so far. As I've said in the past, the classic series doesn't really do much in terms of story, yet here we are getting some actual backstory. The second reason is the fact the committee picked Light's research which, if I'm not mistaken, is a catalyst for plots of future Mega Man games like the X series.
Anyway, it turns out this whole scene was Wily having a flashback in the form of a dream, as we see him wake up and realise he could finish the double gear system and use it for his own gain. And he does just that as he breaks into Light's lab, stealing some of his robots to equip with the double gears. Light realises he has no choice but to retaliate in equal measure, and fits Mega Man with the double gears, so he has a fighting chance and sends him on his way. The rest of the story goes as you'd expect, but the second reason this story is important, as you most likely guessed, is because of the double gear system. This is a brand new mechanic, likely influenced by the rewind feature in the Legacy collection, and it's incredible. At any time during gameplay you can hit one of the trigger buttons to activate either the power gear or speed gear. The power gear, as the name suggests, powers up your attacks. That includes all of your special weapons, turning some of these already useful weapons, like the Tundra Storm and the Bounce Ball, into weapons of mass destruction. You can absolutely decimate regular enemies with the power gear, oftentimes multiple in a single use. As for the speed gear, it slows down time, making certain enemy encounters a breeze. It was usually my first choice when it came to boss encounters, as it helps a lot with learning attack patterns and figuring out when to hit back. It does slow you down as well, but that can be remedied by buying one of the many upgrades available at Auto's shop. Oh, and if you're in a pinch and are at critically low HP, you can hit both of the triggers at once to activate the double gears, which gives you a massive surge of energy to overpower and outspeed your enemies at the same time. Now, these abilities may sound OP, but they do have their drawbacks. When using the single gears, they're only active for a short time, and once time runs out, you have to wait for the entire system to cool off before you can use either of them again. The toll is even larger when using both at the same time, as not only are you unable to use the gears once time runs out, but you also can't charge your Mega Buster, effectively making you a sitting duck. This adds a level of strategy to the game, as you have to properly plan and strategize your gear usage so you don't leave yourself vulnerable during a dire moment like a boss battle, for example. However, once you get a couple decent weapons under your belt and master the controls, it's easy enough to take out the bosses before the cooldown even becomes a factor. Now, combat isn't the only place where the gears come in handy. Both gears can also be used to tackle tough and precise platforming challenges, with the power gear being used to clear out any annoying enemies and obstacles, and the speed gear helping you stick the landing and not fall off or avoid any indestructible obstacles. Now, you can avoid using the gears if you think they make the game too easy, but I imagine the game would be pretty boring without them. The level design on its own isn't great. If anything, you could argue it's inferior to some of the level design found in past entries. Beyond Bounce Man stage and some of Impact Man stage, I don't remember much about the levels and how they're structured. But that's all made up for by the new mechanic. The double gaze are baked into this game's DNA. The game is completely centered around learning and mastering these new techniques and making the most out of them. Hell, they're so baked into this game that every major boss, from the Robot Masters to Wily, uses at least one of these gears themselves, if not both. That being said, I do completely understand this complaint, and it is valid. The game is made a lot easier when you use the gears, even if it is kinda by design. Beyond gameplay additions, the general presentation of this game also saw a major change. We now get to see the classic Mega Man style in 3D, and it's absolutely beautiful. The anime-esque style found in 2 has now realised its full potential, and while I will always prefer the graphics found in 8, 11 takes a firm second place. There are so many cool effects and extra bits of flair in every part of the game, from the menus to the backgrounds to the character models, especially Mega Man, who actually changes in appearance when equipping a weapon. This is something that would have looked extremely messy in 2D, but one of the benefits of 3D is being able to add greater detail, and Mega Man looks so cool thanks to said greater detail. Something I mentioned at the start was cutscenes, and I believe there are a fair few in this game. Some that are in-engine and others that are more of your standard cutscene, complete with digitally drawn stills. Both kinds of cutscenes have voice acting, but worry not, we're not dealing with any of that Mega Man 8 style line delivery. Everything here is pretty standard, straightforward voice acting. It could border on being cheesy to some, but it works for the vibe Mega Man tends to go for, so I rock with it. There is one part of the presentation I don't rock with, however, and that's the music. The classic series is known for its stellar music, and I'd argue 1 to 10 all have their highlights. Some more than others, yes, but by and large, the music always delivers in some form or fashion. Unfortunately, 11 falls short of expectations, in my opinion at least. The energy and the intensity we expect from the classic series is there in almost every song on this soundtrack, but it just doesn't gel with me. Perhaps it's because it's more electronic and techno-y and that's not really my vibe, but I enjoyed some of 8's soundtrack and that was electronic too. Although I guess those songs were going for more of their own unique trancey space age vibe, whereas the tracks in this game try and replicate the classic sound in a modern style. And while they succeed in some capacity, they still fall flat. There's maybe a couple standouts like Fuse Man and Wily's Gear Fortress, but even they lack a little something in my eyes.
Disappointing soundtrack aside, I have very few complaints with this game. Any minor inconvenience or gripe is totally eclipsed by the sheer quality of this game. Having that fun classic series gameplay with a modern twist made this such a great experience. Dare I say it's one of the best platformers I've ever played. The fact they introduced something new in the double gaze and integrated it as seamlessly as it did is nothing short of impressive, and really helped me appreciate the work and the care that went into this game. So whether you're a newcomer or a veteran, play this game the first chance you get, because the effort that went into it should be appreciated.